Hi, this is Kyle Schwarber, and welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hey everybody, Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki, the Phillies Show, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Hope everybody's doing well. It's Thursday morning, January 23rd, 2025. Ruben, you were at fantasy camp in Clearwater, and normally Jim and I would be so jealous because you'd be in the warm weather, but I checked out weather.com, dude. It's not a good week for ball in Clearwater. It's freezing.
No, I'm freezing my cojones off right now. It's cold, man, and it's always windy here. And we're actually on the water here where we're staying, but there's always a breeze floating around here because we're off the water and we're in between we're bays and stuff and such water around, but it is not comfortable. I was supposed to play some golf this morning. I played last night in misery or yesterday. But tried to play this morning. No go, man. I just decided to bag it. It was just way too cold.
Yeah, I genuinely feel bad for you and for all the Phillies alumni there, and especially all the people that paid for fantasy camp. Because when you sign up for this stuff months in advance, you're thinking you're getting out of the dreary, cold, gray hellscape of the Northeast United States. Yeah. And it's kind of feels like you're still in Philly a little bit, And
it's snowy in parts of Florida. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, it's not obviously not snowing here, but it's going to get a little warmer as we move through the week, thankfully. Mm-hmm. But still not the most comfortable situation. Yeah. But they're filing in here heavy on the fantasy camp.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Well, that's good. I hope you have a good time down there. I know when people go down there, they have a lot of fun. One guy who had a great night last night, regardless of the weather. Our good friend Billy Wagner makes the Hall of Fame. That was I loved the reaction that I saw on Twitter on the internet when he got the call. Billy breaking down in tears really showed how much he meant to it. And when we had him on our show right before Christmas, you can tell how tortured he was over the last couple of years about not getting in, coming so close. You guys obviously must feel the same as I do about Billy getting in.
Absolutely thrilled. I think it's richly deserved, and I'm very, very happy for the player and the man. He's one of my all-time favorites, and he was a great one. You look, a career whip under 1.0. He struck out 1/3 of the batters he faced in Major League Baseball games. He held opposing hitters, 903 innings. He held opposing hitters to under 200 batting average. I thought the MLB Network, and I think they always do a great job. I think their coverage was phenomenal leading up to this thing. And a few days ago, they had a graphic. Now, Billy spent his whole career having to get big outs. He wasn't some middle reliever. He wasn't a starter who could pace himself. He had to come out there and be ready and sharp and on top of his game from the first pitch, or else you were going to lose that ball game. Pitching and leverage all the time and dominating. And the MLB Network the other day had this graphic. I was watching it, and I took a picture of it. In his career, facing Barry Bonds was 3 for 14 with 3 strikeouts. Miguel Cabrera, hitting savant, was 2 for 13 with 5 strikeouts against Billy Wagner. Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer, 4 for 23, 13 strikeouts against Billy Wagner. Albert Pujols, another hitting savant, one of the greatest players of all time, 7 for 25, 4 strikeouts against Billy Wagner. Bonds, Cabrera, Chipper, and Pujols combined hit 213 against Billy Wagner. I mean, that doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame, but it just illustrates how dominant he was, big situations against top players. Hats off to Billy, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's really so happy for him. Those are great numbers, Jim. And you talk about the strikeout numbers. That was during an era where a strikeout was sort of embarrassing. People didn't want to strike out back then. The percentages across the board were way lower than the percentages they are now. I mean, it's got to be a difference of maybe 5 to 7 to 10% difference on average, something like that. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but people were not striking out that kind of rate, especially at the major leagues. So, I agree with you, Todd, about the reaction. I mean, if you think about where he started as a right-hander.
Right.
His arm, becomes a left-hander, and throws 100 miles an hour. But not just that, but he located his fastball, and he threw a very, very effective slider as well. One of the most dominant pitchers of all time. And for him to go from where he started to where he finished, small, what is he, 5'10", 5'11"? I mean,
5'9", I think.
I mean, small, very, very small left-hander, with a golden arm, who had the gumption and the guts to be able to do what he did for such a long period of time. Kudos, man. So happy for him. Good guy, competitive guy, and boy, oh boy, is it well deserved. And let's not slough off Mr. CC Sabathia and Ichiro. I mean, you're talking about two phenomenal players. CC Sabathia, I think, brought another element to his game. I mean, obviously a great pitcher, but if you start talking about teammates and what he meant to his teams as a person and as a leader, and now he's working, I believe, in the commissioner's office, and really helping out Major League Baseball. Just a quality human being, man. Just a quality human being that you wanted to be around. I never had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with him, but I know his story, and I know people talk about him in the highest. I've met him several times, but people talk about him at the highest level. And then Ichiro, I mean, 3,000 hits in 2 major leagues. I mean, come on, ridiculous. I mean, what's funny about Ichiro is, would he be able to play on a team in today's world? I guess he would be probably viewed much like
Rise.
A rise, probably with more speed, better defense, probably. But I don't know. He wouldn't be his value as a player would be very, very different in today's day and age than it was back then, when he was an elite player in this league, and first Japanese player ever to be Japanese born, right? Correct.
Yep.
Right. He had such great
to be in the Hall of Fame. He
had such great bat control. I think if he was, coming in now and they said, "Hey, we need you to slug more," he could have said, "Okay, I'll use the bat head more and I'll slug more."
Well, that's actually, it's funny as you say that, Jim, because people talk about he and also Wade Boggs in this vein. Like, if they wanted to hit home runs and they wanted to create a little bit more angle, a little bit more, drive the ball out of the ballpark and work underneath the ball more, they could do that. They had the ability to do that, eye-hand coordination, but they didn't want to sacrifice, their run production for power.
You mentioned,
Imagine that.
You mentioned CC being a good teammate, CC Sabathia, and I'll always remember 2008 when he went to Milwaukee. There was a time when you guys were trying to acquire him as well, right? Was that?
That was the year. That was the year.
So he goes to Milwaukee and he goes like 10-1 for them, right? And he pitches a whole bunch of, many of his starts were on 3 days rest, right?
He was outstanding. Yeah.
He was just taking the ball. And he wasn't saying, well, I'm not going to go on short rest because I'm going to be a free agent and I need to protect my earning power. No, he was like, you traded for me. We're here to win ball games. I'm going to take the ball and do the best I can. And we'll worry about free agency later. I thought that
would never happen today. Or very few guys would do that.
Yeah.
Very few guys would do that.
Agent would fly into town and put him in a straitjacket.
Exactly.
You're right about that, Jim. That's a separator for me, man. That's a really big separator because he wanted to win. Imagine that. He wanted to win baseball games.
We will be right back.
Kratz, do you like spending an hour on grocery shopping?
Nope. Speed up the process, please.
Introducing Hungryroot to the FT fam.
Now we can all be bougie with our own personal shopper to handle the food shopping, including Rex, based on what you're looking to put in your body.
I stack my Hungryroot box with items like gluten-free, dairy-free, blueberry waffles for breakfast, shrimp veggie bowls for lunch, and a little filet mignon with potatoes and broccolini for dinner.
You can also say just, hey, Hungryroot, I eat paleo, or I'm vegetarian, and they load up your cart with personalized recommendations.
And those recs keep evolving as they learn about what you're into. Also, no BS, as in no artificial sweeteners or preservatives in any of Hungryroot's food. You're going to love Hungryroot as much as FT does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/FT and use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT, code FT to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life.
We're back. We've talked about this a bunch. Certainly during the Billy Wagner episode, we shared a long story about it. But Jim, I mean, come on, you've caught a bullpen session of a Hall of Famer now. You can say it's not just you didn't just catch an elite closer over a long career. You caught a Hall of Famer closer's bullpen session in spring training. That adds to this story. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to the Billy Wagner episode late last year.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite stories that I've ever done, and it was a great memory. That's all I can say. But but I'm just happy for Billy because I know how hard he worked. I know what a student of his craft he was. I knew how bad he wanted to win. I know how good he was. So. And I know waiting those 10 years, man, it was like excruciating. It was a grind. I mean, and when we had him on our podcast a few weeks ago, I went back and listened to it. I thought he was so good. And one of the things that struck me is his love of the game. And, he's gone back for 13 years now, become an excellent, excellent high school coach. He sends kids to Division I schools regularly. He's got 2 kids in the big leagues. And, he believes all his experiences, all his the challenges that he met as a player, and he met a lot of them. Came out of a Division III college. He was 5'9". He broke his arm. A lot of challenges to become the hardest thrown left-hander on the planet and a Hall of Fame closer. And he believes all of those experiences and challenges were put in front of him to make him a better coach and to do a better job shaping young baseball players. So I have great respect for him.
Yeah,
indeed, Jim. But I got to go back, and you're being really humble because for you to actually go back there behind the plate to catch this guy who's throwing 100 miles an hour, I mean, you probably in your life never saw anything like that. I know you haven't. You ain't catching any 100-mile-an-hour fastballs or 94-mile-an-hour sliders.
No,
so for you to have handled that, I mean, you really did handle yourself well, and it is a great story, and you absolutely should tune into that episode. Billy was terrific.
Well, I just remember, you loosen up on flat ground, and his first throw was right at my face with no mask on. I was like, holy shit, what am I doing here? And I also remember I was running my tape recorder next to where I was, catching in the bullpen so I could chronicle what happened. And I remember hearing your voice. It broke my concentration, Ruben, because I could hear your voice. You were leaning on the fence. And he was about 15 or 18 pitches in, and I heard you say, watch, he's going to throw a changeup and hit him right in the
face. Billy would never do that to you, Jim. He would never do that to you.
Well, he didn't throw a changeup, so I
know.
I think you know what's interesting, Jim? I think you gained a lot of respect that day, too, from him. And I think he already respected you, and he was really a good interview for you guys, as you've stated before, because he wasn't afraid to speak his mind. But I do think that I'm sure that you gained a whole great level of respect for being able to do that. It's kind of cool.
He wasn't afraid to be himself,
Correct. Yeah. Yep, he was confident who he was, and that's comfortable in his own skin. 3 other Phillies were on the ballot, guys, yesterday, and I want to run by their vote totals for you and see what you think about their chances. Chase Utley, in his second year of eligibility, jumped from like 23% to 28% to like 39.8%. Bobby Abreu in his 6th year on the ballot, 19.6%. Jimmy Rollins in his 4th year on the ballot, 18%. You have a maximum of 10 years of eligibility. If you receive at least 5% of the vote, you have to have 75% of the vote for enshrinement into Cooperstown. So the way I read those numbers yesterday was Chase Utley is on a heck of a pace right now, and he really his arrow is pointing due north to Cooperstown, New York. Bobby Abreu, I think he has a lot of work to do. He almost has to get on some sick hot streak. And Jimmy, year 4. 18%, not great, but not bad. If you kind of look at where Billy Wagner was after 4 years, kind of in the same spot. And I know it's different players, of course. Voters look at things differently, but I still think Jimmy is in the running. Not as great of a shot as Chase. What did you guys make of that?
Well, staying on Jimmy for a second, Larry Walker he started off like with 20% his first year. By his fourth year, he was down to 10%. Larry Walker.
Really?
And Jimmy's at 18% in his fourth year. So maybe that is some encouragement for Jimmy. I think it's going to be tough. But I do think he's deserving. I have a tough time separating him and Utley. It's like Lou Whitaker. Why isn't he in? Him and Alan Trammell. How do you separate those two guys? When I watched, every time I saw Jimmy take the field, I thought I was watching greatness. So that's why I think he's a Hall of Famer. Utley at 39% 2 years in. Scott Rowland on his third year was at 35%. I know they played different positions. Rowland was a real separator, had the gold gloves, which was a real separator. But I think Chase is on a really good track at 39% after 2 years. And next year's ballot is not one that blows you over. I think he'll make even more strides, significant strides next year. So I agree with you. I think his arrow is pointing toward upstate New York.
Yeah, obviously I have great bias because I watched those guys grow up in baseball and watch them become the players that they were. I think about the length and breadth of their dominance, the length and breadth of their contribution, what they meant to, they were core players, particularly Jimmy and Chase, core players to, maybe the greatest era of baseball for the Phillies. And so all those things combined, I think that they're deserving. I just don't know whether, the fact that Chase had, some blips in the screen there as far as the injuries are concerned. And then Jimmy just didn't have like the hardware, even though he had an MVP, he should have had way more gold gloves, I think, and all-star appearances. I mean, the man was the best defensive player, the most consistent defensive player of his era, I believe. And I don't even think it was close at his position. And so that's why you got to think about guys like Omar Vizquel. How does he stack up in that regard as well? And I know Jimmy was a better offensive player overall, but also Omar was like dazzling at that position. There's just a lot of things to debate there, man. It's just really what do you love? What do you love about the player, and how much do you love them? But they're certainly deserving.
Yeah, I think when I think about Jimmy Rollins, let me put it this way. With WAR, right, I do believe in the value of just providing a snapshot. I don't believe it says everything. So this is where I think that WAR doesn't provide an accurate snapshot, which is why you have to look at some of the other things. Jimmy Rollins' career WAR is in I think 44. Bobby Abreu is in the 60.2. But I consider Jimmy Rollins more of a Hall of Famer personally than Bobby Abreu, because I thought he played such an elite level defense. And now getting away from watching Jimmy Rollins play every day, I really appreciate how good he was defensively, just all across baseball. I'm like, God, that dude caught everything. And so to me, I go, there's something missing in the WAR total that doesn't really capture how absolutely dominant that guy was defensively. I think he was so great. He's an MVP winner. Jason Stark wrote about this a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, about Jimmy Rollins. I think he's the only shortstop in baseball history to have more than 2,400 or more hits, 200 or more home runs, 400 or more stolen bases, 800 or more extra base hits. So he's not just Omar Vizquel, and this is not, Ruben, any disrespect towards Omar Vizquel, but he was a brilliant defender and a hell of an offensive player at the top of the lineup on some really good teams. People, when Jimmy played over his career, I would always have people come up, or we would get in discussion. Do you think Jimmy's going to make the Hall of Fame one day? Do you think Jimmy Rollins is a Hall of Famer? So that means he's always been in the conversation. Chase Utley, to me, always in the conversation. I think even though his injuries kind of shortened his career, his peak years, didn't really hear that much talk about Bobby Abreu, but then you look at Bobby's career numbers and you're like, holy crap, was this guy underappreciated? I think if I had to rank him, no doubt Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins for me. I'd have to take a look at the rest of the ballot for Bobby Abreu, but I mean, Bobby's numbers are certainly, people are voting for him. So I think that says a lot about him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Bobby put up a lot of great numbers, his on-base totals.
Unreal.
Yeah, he didn't play on any winners in Philadelphia. Had he stayed with the team throughout those winning years, maybe something would have been different. But intangibly, the team sort of took off when they traded him. Yeah. I did think he would get more support here in the last few years as some of the things he did so well become more appreciated by voters, particularly his selectivity and his on-base skills. But he's at 19.5 after 6 years. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. I
think it's a tough road for him, but I mean, there's some great numbers there to talk about. I mean, there's some length and some breadth to his numbers. Right. It's just a matter of whether people are going to think that he's dominant enough to be able to be a guy. I'm not sure that he had that cachet.
Yeah. Ruben, you got this. We've been dying to ask you about this, or wanting to ask you about this. You're wearing this hat, slug ball. I've seen some stories nationally.
Speaking of handling the bat.
Yeah, speaking of handling the bat. So slug ball, this big announcement comes out today that you and your brother and Kenny Lofton are involved in this venture called Slug Ball. And it's kind of like what I think is cool and what got me kind of going, okay, I need to know more about this. This is not just because we're friends and podcast partners, but when I heard Top Golf for baseball, I'm going, okay, I need to hear more about this. So tell everybody who's listening about what Slug Ball is exactly.
Yeah, well, I think interestingly, there's like there's no game. A lot of these, see 3v3 basketball going on. You see, and that becoming a thing. Pickleball, Top Golf, as you mentioned. There's other sports. There's even flag football now that's becoming like these are games that were sort of derivatives of major sports, and something that people can play and compete with. You really didn't have that sort of thing in baseball. Like once you're done playing high school baseball or competitive, D1, D2, D3 college baseball, or even professional baseball, you sort of hung them up and that was it. Mm-hmm. Maybe you played a little softball, maybe you did a little this, a little that, but there's no real game that, and I always felt like, hitting's the most fun part of the game. There's no fielding, there's no running the bases. Right. And basically, I think the part of the game that also is really interests me is the fact that you can control the bat. You don't have to hit home runs. It's not a home run derby, and it's really the art. And we were sort of emphasizing the art and the skill of hitting. It's a difficult thing to do. It's one of the most difficult. People talk about it all the time. One of the most difficult things to do in all of sports. But I think it's a cool way for people to compete and to be able to get their buddies together, get their colleagues together, get their ex-teammates together, and kind of swing the bat and compete against other players in a fun, efficient way. They're quick games. The games are like 30 minutes long at the most, and then you just sort of handle the bat around the field. And if you want to see more about it, look at see at play slugball.com. At Slugball, there's a whole lot of social media stuff going on right now with it, but we're proud to launch it. We have 6 competitions already set up, beginning on May 10th, and we'll see how it goes. We did some testing. It was basically a group of people. My brother was involved, myself, some business owners, some business leaders in Philadelphia. A guy named Mike Gosner Jr. and his dad, Mike Gosner, and Greg Olinsky, a bunch of guys in the Philadelphia area who had this sort of idea and dream, and we sort of tweaked it and got to the point where we tested it and did some things with it. And I think it's pretty cool, man. I think it's going to be a cool thing for people to, to be able to pick up that baseball bat and swing it again in a competitive environment. That's fun.
Yeah.
So we got to go out and do it.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, we got to get you guys out there. We definitely have to get you guys out there.
No video, though, right?
Oh, there's video. There's video.
We used to
That'll
do
be part of the package.
We used to do a back in the day. Jim remembers quite well. We used to do a Phillies media batting challenge in spring training over at Carpenter Complex very early in camp. Milt Thompson would throw some BP, and every once in a while, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Jimmy always finished near the top. Jimmy can swing it.
What do you mean near?
At the top. He's a talented man.
I can't remember
talented man.
Yeah, he's catching Billy Wagner. He's winning Phillies media batting challenges.
Is he the total package?
He truly is.
I think he might
the
be
total
the total package.
Well, yeah. I'm going to definitely go do some slug ball, but I just hope it's a freebie.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what we do with the media folk. But again, it sounds like it looks like it, and it feels like, and it's from the feedback that we've got from some of the people who competed, they've really enjoyed, getting back on the field and being able to do it.
And plus, it's at minor league parks too, so that's cool. It's not like it's it's in a real facility as well, which I think kind of adds to the cool factor. You're not going out to some park right around the corner from your house and doing it. It's a real venue, so I think that adds kind of the coolness of it. So
can I, Ruben? Can I bring my old green Easton?
Wood bats only. Wood. Bats only.
Remember the green Easton?
Don't worry. Yes. That's the one I used. 3332.
I used
3331.
3329. Oh, what a nice! I still got it in my garage.
You know what I just found recently? Years ago, there was a Charlie Manuel bat giveaway at the ballpark, and that's a wooden bat. So maybe I could. I'm sure they gave only the best wood for the.
I do believe that Victus is providing the bats.
Oh, really?
And that's one of the. I think that's one of the caveats. I do believe, or at least there'll be part of the process. We have all types of stuff. You put the things on the knobs, and you'll be able to see your bat speed and that kind of stuff. It's pretty. There's pretty cool stuff.
That is cool. I like that. Yeah, see how fast you're swinging it. See how you measure up to Schwarber.
How you measure up to the Schwarbaum.
Yeah.
or Bryce Harper, that violent swing.
My exit velo. I don't know what that would be coming off the bat if I hit it pure. But well, that's cool, Ruben. We wish you the best of luck with it. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I know Matt Breen from the Inquirer wrote a story about it today.
I saw it everywhere today. AP wrote about it. USA Today wrote about it.
Yeah, you guys are getting out there. That's cool. That's
we're cool. trying to make a footprint. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Wrapping it up, Phillies had some players at the ballpark yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw it. Christopher Sanchez in town, Ryan Kirkring, Cody Clemens, Buddy Kennedy, who's local, and Weston Wilson, who came into town. And most of the guys
checked out a Flyers game, right?
They checked out a Flyers game. Most of them came into town like Monday. I said, why don't you guys come in a day early, go to the Eagles game? They said, if we had thought about that, we would have come in a day early to check out the Eagles. But they also are not a fan of the weather in Philadelphia right now. They're itching, I think, to get back to Texas and Florida. And
this is very, very unusual.
It really is.
It's cold everywhere, man.
This growing up in New England, this is great pond hockey weather, because you get a week in the teens and you got a foot of ice, and the ice is like glass unless it snows, but a beautiful ice. But the key to good pond hockey weather is like 18 to 22 degrees and no wind. And this is what we got right now.
Yeah. You got to get the skates.
We got wind down here. It's not 18 or 20 degrees, but we got wind.
No wind. I don't really, as long as it's not windy, I don't mind it. Wind is my least favorite element. I think you know that.
Oh, God, yeah. Jim in the press box, man. If the wind starts blowing through the press, because Jim Rubin, he shows up usually with a Wawa bag, like a copy of the New York Post, a copy of the Inquirer, a copy of whatever.
The
paper spread everywhere. He's got his notes everywhere. He's got his shit everywhere. Gum wrappers everywhere. And then the wind starts whipping through it, and everything goes everywhere. And Jim, it catches Jim by surprise. It catches by surprise every single time. Every single time the wind blows through.
Jim by surprise. Wind. Like, cover up. Tidy up before the wind hits, James.
Really don't like wind. It blows my hoagie wrapper around. It's just don't like wind.
You don't handle the wind well in golf, I don't think either, do you?
No, because I hit the ball high.
That's right. You got a lot of loft to your game.
Well, we will be back. I guess it's Thursday, right? Yeah, we'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll be talking about an Eagles win. And
Rubio, where are you dining tonight?
Oh yeah,
Clearwater.
Actually, tonight I actually went and got a grouper sandwich this afternoon.
You did, really?
So he was that. Yeah, I got a grouper sandwich at the original, and
original Frenchie.
And actually the other one on the Rockaway is open too. But sadly, the Palm Pavilion is done and maybe done forever.
Wow,
really? That's a
they're
bummer.
They're thinking about shutting it down and making it someone, a developer, they've been talking about the possibility of making it a hotel. Yeah, which is sad, but the Frenchie's Rockaway's good. I went to the original today, bellied up to the bar, did not have an adult beverage, but did get the grouper sandwich, the original.
Oh man, that
has
has me
delicious. Don't be jelly.
That has me thinking about Clearwater. We'll have plenty more to talk about Clearwater in the coming weeks. Pitchers and catchers report on February 12th. Good guests
coming too.
Yes, good guests. Plenty of talk about Clearwater. We'll break down, roster coming into camp. We got all sorts of stuff planned. So we'll be back. We'll be back next week. That was fun, guys. See you on Monday.
Yeah, after the Eagles game. Go Eagles. We'll smell you later.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.